November 30th, 2025. Early morning, Black Sea. A dense layer of haze sits low over the water. Commercial shipping lanes are active, but the scene is unusually quiet. Tankers move across the surface at steady speeds, following routes they have taken many times before. There are no warnings and no alerts. Nothing unusual registers on radar, yet still, something is different. Far from shore, near the Turkish coast, two large oil tankers continue their transit. Their engines hum in a constant rhythm, while their navigation lights blink against the gray horizon. Both vessels are older, both flagged to the Gambia, and both part of a vast system of ships that operate beyond normal scrutiny. For now, they maintain routine headings, calm seas, predictable patterns. But beneath that calm, the region is changing. Activity across the Black Sea has been rising for weeks. Insurance markets are tightening, naval movements are being recorded, and key infrastructure has been struck. Analysts are watching each mile of open water more closely than before. And on this morning, in this stretch of sea, something small is about to enter a space dominated by steel hulls that measure hundreds of meters long. It moves fast, it moves low, and it is not a ship. For the next several minutes, every decision, every movement, and every reaction will be recorded. And the Black Sea will not be the same. On the 30th of November 2025, two large tankers, the Kairos and the Virat, were operating in this region. Both vessels were flagged to the Gambia. The Kairos was located in the southwestern area of the Black Sea, near the Turkish coastline. The Virat was positioned farther east in a central section of the sea. Both were following established maritime paths used by tanker traffic. These vessels were linked by international observers to what is commonly referred to as Russia's shadow fleet. This term describes a group of tankers used to transport Russian oil after sanctions were placed on the country back in 2022. The shadow fleet does not have a single owner or management structure. Instead, it consists of many individual ships, often older, each with varied ownership records and different insurance arrangements. The purpose of the fleet is to continue moving oil to global markets despite commercial restrictions. For several months before the end of November 2025, shipping movements in the Black Sea had gained more attention. There had been prior incidents involving ports, mooring points, and other infrastructure. These incidents affected both military and commercial areas. Port facilities at Novorossiysk, a major Russian export point connected to the Caspian Pipeline Consortium, had experienced damage from unmanned boats. The consortium temporarily suspended loading to assess the situation. Ukraine had developed several types of naval drones capable of traveling long distances across the surface of the water. One of these systems is known as the Sea Baby drone. These drones are designed to carry payloads, travel at high speeds, and follow preset navigation paths using onboard systems. They can be launched from coastal areas and are operated by Ukrainian security services for a range of missions. Their deployment added a new dimension to maritime activity in the Black Sea. Because many vessels in the Shadow Fleet operate in open water, their routes frequently pass through areas where such drones are capable of traveling. Commercial ships do not carry defensive equipment, and tankers of this size generally rely on monitoring systems, communication with coastal authorities, and support from nearby states in case of any incident. The sequence of events that followed began with little warning. The Kairos maintained its course in the southwestern region of the Black Sea. The tanker moved at a steady speed consistent with large commercial vessels carrying oil cargo. As morning approached, a new contact appeared on the surface of the water. It was small, fast and very close to the waterline. This was a Ukrainian Sea Baby naval drone. It approached the Kairos from a low angle, generating a narrow wake. The drone had traveled along a direct path, closing the distance between itself and the tanker without hesitation. The approach was swift and gave little room for reaction. The Kairos continued on its path until the final moments before impact. As the drone made contact with the hull, a sharp explosion occurred. Flames rose along the vessel, smoke began to climb and drift with the wind. Emergency boats headed towards the Kairos, coordinating their movements to reach the tanker as quickly as possible. Upon arrival, crews directed streams of water toward the flames. Their focus was containment, preventing the fire from spreading to other sections of the ship or reaching deeper into its cargo. The response continued until the visible flames were reduced. No loss of life was reported, and efforts persisted until the situation was stable enough for further assessment. The damage to the hull and the surrounding areas of the tanker could be seen clearly once the fire began to subside. The next sequence took place in this more central location. A contact, similar to the one that approached Kairos, began moving toward the Virat. It maintained speed and direction in a straight line, using the surface of the water to minimize its profile. The tanker continued forward and the distance between the two objects steadily decreased. When the drone reached the hull, an explosion occurred, producing a fire visible from a significant distance. Smoke rose vertically into the air before spreading across the surface of the sea. Footage of both incidents was later verified by international media organizations. The recordings showed waterborne drones speeding toward the tankers before detonating. The clarity of the footage confirmed the direction, speed, and the behavior of the drones as they approached the vessels. These recordings circulated widely and were referenced by officials in several countries. They provided an unbroken visual record of the sequence of events leading up to each strike. In parallel with the events involving the Kairos, Virat, and Novorossiysk, insurance markets reacted. Brokers who monitor risk in maritime zones observed increased demand for updated coverage. War risk insurance rates rose significantly. These adjustments were applied across different categories of vessels operating in the region, particularly those linked to Russian trade. Brokers noted that the increases could continue if additional incidents occurred. These shifts in insurance rates influenced the cost of operating tankers and other ships in the Black Sea. Industry experts commented on the broader pattern. Some noted that even ships involved in general commercial trade, unrelated to sanctioned activities, began expressing concern about operating in these waters. This reaction was driven by the unpredictable nature of the incidents and the expanding range of unmanned systems used in the region. One expert mentioned that a tanker off the coast of Senegal had been damaged by 4 explosions in a separate event, raising questions about the potential spread of such activity beyond the Black Sea. The cause of the Senegal incident was still uncertain, and Ukrainian involvement had not been confirmed. As the Black Sea continued to receive close attention, monitoring systems tracked movements of ships, emergency responses, and the status of important ports. Countries in the region remained alert to any new developments. Commercial operators reviewed their routes and the conditions of their vessels. Shipping data reflected ongoing activity across the sea, with tankers, cargo ships, and support vessels moving according to their schedules. In the days following the strikes, the tankers Kairos and Virat remained central to maritime reporting. Throughout this period, Ukraine continued discussions with international partners. A delegation led by Rustem Umarov traveled to the United States to continue talks on a potential agreement related to the wider conflict. Meetings were planned with U.S. officials, and further talks involving representatives from other countries were expected. While diplomatic conversations moved forward on land, activity at sea followed its own sequence of procedures, including key maritime rules along with the responsibilities carried by the forces and authorities involved. The use of naval drones in the region followed a structured pattern. These drones, known as the Baby C models, are built to operate across long distances on the surface of the water. Their deployment begins long before they appear near a tanker. Each drone must be prepared with careful attention to its hull, engine, navigation equipment, and payload. Small unmanned surface vessels like these rely on pre-programmed routes. Their operators map out a precise path across the water, taking into account distance, speed, and expected conditions. Once the navigation system is set, the drone's course is loaded into its onboard controls. After preparation, the drone is moved to its launch point. This can take place from a coastal area under Ukrainian control. When placed into the water, the drone begins its programmed journey. Such drones remain close to the waterline and travel at speeds that make them difficult to detect at long range. Their engines produce a narrow wake, and their low profile reduces the chance of appearing clearly on any radar. As they move through the sea, they follow the stored coordinates, adjusting their heading as needed. Operators can monitor the drone's progress, but once launched, the drone's navigation system carries out most of the workload. On the day the Kairos was struck, the drone approached the hull directly and maintained its speed until the moment of contact. Drones of this type are designed to detonate on impact, meaning that the explosion occurs at the very instant the hull is touched. The resulting fire and structural damage reflect the power of the payload carried within the drone's frame. Emergency procedures begin as soon as the tanker is struck. Commercial vessels are required to maintain a system for reporting distress. When a fire or explosion occurs, the crew sends immediate signals to nearby authorities. In the Black Sea, Turkish coastal stations have the capability to detect emergencies quickly through their communications channels, automated alerts, or by visual confirmation from monitoring systems. Once the distress is registered, emergency crews prepare their vessels and equipment. Firefighting boats take priority in cases involving tankers because tanker fires can expand rapidly if not contained early. Upon arriving at the scene, response teams coordinate with the tanker's crew to assess the safest angle of approach. They must consider wind direction, potential fuel leaks, and the stability of the vessel. Fire suppression begins with controlled streams of water directed toward the hottest areas of the hull. The aim is to cool the steel and reduce the spread of flames. This process can take time, as the fire must be brought down gradually to avoid sudden structural shifts. Turkish crews perform this role for the Kairos, using their equipment to stabilize the situation. While emergency work is underway, maritime authorities continue to track the damaged vessel. Modern tankers transmit signals that indicate their position, speed, and status. In the aftermath of the tanker strikes, international monitoring systems continued to record maritime movements. Ships in the region transmitted their positions as they normally would. Tracking centers reviewed this information to identify any unusual shifts in traffic. When risks increase, some ships choose to divert or slow their transit, while others continue but report their positions more frequently. These reactions are part of a standard maritime procedure in areas where security conditions fluctuate. For Ukraine, the use of naval drones is guided by military planning and coordination between security services. Each operation requires authorization, technical preparation, and timing that aligns with broader activity in the region. For Turkey, emergency response at sea follows maritime safety regulations that apply to all vessels, regardless of origin. For Russia and Kazakhstan, damaged infrastructure triggers established procedures for repair assessment and export adjustments. For shipping companies and insurance providers, risk analysis determines the level of exposure acceptable for continued operations. Each of these systems moves according to its own rules. Drone deployment involves technical preparation and navigation programming. Maritime emergency response involves rapid detection and coordinated action. Insurance evaluation involves financial analysis and policy adjustments. And port operations involve engineering assessments and safety decisions. In the Black Sea, movements rarely pass without notice. A tanker adjusting its speed, a drone appearing on the surface, a port halting operations. Each event shifts the conditions and raises the tension. Each response, or absence of one, changes how the next day will unfold. The events involving Kairos and Virat took place within this environment, where commercial routes, security measures, and international interests overlap in ways that are often difficult to separate. In the end, 2 tankers were struck, emergency crews acted quickly, no lives were lost, infrastructure in another location was damaged, insurance markets adjusted, countries expressed their concerns, and the Black Sea moved on to its next day with the same mixture of routine and uncertainty that has defined it throughout this entire period.